Okay, ring. Second join us. Okay. All right, it's 1 o'clock. It's 1 a.m. So going to Lost in Space. That's the TV show. The old one. I guess they made a new one. That's kind of Lost in Space. They do these remakes. They're just showing how lost we really are, aren't they? It's one thing when you make that stuff in the 50s. That's probably more advanced than what we're doing now. So it's like we're just showing how backwards we're going, at least creatively. Because they're remaking everything. They remade, was it Magnum PI, Quantum Leap, and all of it's underwhelming. And it's like some of that stuff is like in its 7th season and all that. It's like whatever. Well, they connect to the energy of the old shows. But Lost in Space, you can see that's our world. All these different religions. Of course, now we have the alien religions coming in. That's what I was going to do a thing about. I heard something about how the Zetas are the reason for all of this. Whatever. You can say they're a contributing factor, but it really comes down to humanity. And I guess if you need somebody to blame, there's always somebody to blame. But still, it's still up for humanity's responsibility. So Lost in Space, that's basically our world. It's not so much the TV show; it's more like our reality. So that'd be different. The booties, I guess that's what you call it. The boots, the booties of void. So it's basically void in space, which I'm not that familiar with. I just found that on accident, actually. It's basically just kind of like a desert in space. There is some star clusters there, not easily seen. I mean, there is life there. There's definitely artificial intelligence there. You can say that's lost in space, you can say. It's one thing about, when you go into the higher dimensions, at least the higher, like one notch above our reality, where you can go to these different star systems. At least there's a lot of adventure out there. This world, our adventure is getting ice cream at the, just buying ice cream. I guess that's our version of adventure. I'm not sure what else. I guess traveling is kind of an adventure. And also Sirius B, just bringing some alien energies there. Of course, this is all pretty much an alien energy overall, especially the booties, especially all of this. So I'm experimenting also with AI art. I've been having some fun with it, actually. It's not perfect. Like you put in the, I'll have a more of a gallery of what I'm doing. I haven't figured out how I'm going to do it yet. I'll show the stuff I put together. So the like the female faces, it does pretty good on that, but the male face, it's still not. Sometimes when you put it for a male portrait, it gives you like a female portrait instead. It's still figuring itself out. A lot of stuff it doesn't understand what you're talking about. But give me some examples. That one's a steampunk. I'm not sure what the description was. Yeah, it looks kind of creepy. But for what it is, it looks pretty cool also at the same time. Yeah, you might not want to look too deep into it. but as for facial features, that looks really good. And this is Mars, basically like a robot on Mars. That's definitely, I should have used this for the thumbnail. The robots are pretty cool. That's a steampunk robot. And that's a steampunk clock. That's in the thumbnail. Clocks it does really good with. Robots it does pretty good sometimes. And that's a spaceman there. Also, but these are, that one's kind of creepy, but if you look past that, it's pretty cool. I also have dragons and things like that. So just trying to shake things up a little bit. Let's see here. Avatar.com, private sessions, scheduler. We have a shop here. I'm late as usual as webinar, social network, behind the scenes. Oh, wait, I forgot to post the link. That's right, I forgot to post the link. Let me put this up for a second. Which is creep people out here. I put the robot there. I can go into that also. Yeah, so it's basically a generator. I completely forgot about this. And a generator like this, I was just a steampunk girl, and it kind of went all the way, as you can see. Yeah, you can put in descriptions, but it kind of does whatever it feels, whatever it can figure out. It's kind of like Google when it takes all your search terms and gives you results. Kind of the same thing, but it's creating an image there instead. To give you a little bit more of an idea. So it's the robots came out really good. Eventually I'll show everything, but I'm not I'm still figuring everything out. I'm just posting the link here. I completely forgot too many things going on. I'll just do it real quick. Oh, come on. Okay. Enough of that. Yeah, but those are pretty neat though. I think it showed it all right. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of went crazy with it today. And I'll show it off later on. Yeah, it's still the faces. It still breaks up the faces. It's not pretty. Even this other one, it broke it up quite. No, not that bad, but it can get really kind of weird looking. It's like, and there's a way of fixing it if you have the time for it, or just work around it. And so, anyway, if you can't draw, if you're not much of an artist in that regard, you can just come up with ideas. You do another creative side of yourself and see what you come up with. So it's something different. You don't have to get paint on you or anything like that. Fritzy's here, biting my leg. Ow. So, okay. All right. Ow. Come here. Pain in the ass. Yeah, so she doesn't kill me. There she is. Yes. What's going on? Jump on that. I let her figure out what she's going to do. Okay, all right, we're going to Lost in Space. When I connect to, that's right. If you don't know what I'm talking about, like these new generations. I think that robot has a name. I'm not sure what it is though. This is definitely before my time. Yeah, it's kind of like a Palladian reality, kind of a Venus Palladian. What white people. Nordic energy is the 1950s, so of course they have the newer version, I guess. I'm kind of frightened to see it. Seeing how we do such a good job in the modern era. Yeah, it looks nice and creepy. It's like, what is this? Is this like the modern? Yeah. Of course, you have your diversity there, and you have a creepy robot. Is this really Lost in Space? Jeez, I didn't know they made something like this. Yeah, this looks very comforting. Yeah, we're going along. Yeah, this is us going backwards. What? It's like an Archon energy there. Yeah, this doesn't look very friendly. I'm not sure if being lost in space is what it's cracked out to be. Oh well, whatever they're doing there. We're part two on that one. Okay. All right, we're not going to tap into that. Well, technically we are sort of, not really, not that. That's more like manipulation. So right, we'll clear that energy out, and we'll connect to our planet. Yeah, it just feels like the lost in space energy is coming from our world, our you know. Yeah. So we'll just tap into that, go into the booties, the void, and Sirius. So, all right, blessings. Here we go. Brings me a consciousness of your world, multidimensional energies. Of course, some of you are used to the higher frequencies. As you know, it's like a drug. The physical realm, of course, this world did everything it could to stop. It put the brakes on its reality. Of course, some of you are trying or attempting to connect more to your creativity. If you wish to more open up your secrets within yourself. And it doesn't mean it has always the answers. It depends on how deep you want to go. Yes, allow the crazy to come through, or allow yourself to basically, creativity is basically exploring your chakras, your Akashic record. So the lost in space energy, basically this world is kind of like a desert island to a certain level, not completely. Obviously, many are manipulating it. Those that have weaponized other planets, and you see them here. And you're learning how to deal with it, cope with it. There is some reptilian authority, but there's other beings. As for the Zetas controlling your reality, they're not exactly the most smartest beings to do that. Yes, they can influence, they can manipulate, but they're not exactly the most powerful beings out there. That would be more like your wizard energies that some of you tap into. Energies that you don't see. A wizardry frequency, yes, basically like the God consciousness, God-like beings, which is not mentioned very often. Some are actually terrified of that frequency, even if they say that or not. It's these are beings that yes do look down on humanity to a certain level. They know this world is something they need themselves, and some of them have aspects of themselves as primitive as you can get. They truly like stripped away the ego and went as like there's some of them are janitors here. Let's put it that way. So you have janitor type of beings that have all this knowledge, and all they're doing is sweeping the floor. I think you've seen that to a certain level. Yes, it's a lot of times this the smallest job possible. Maids, janitors, whatever it might be. A lot of them are higher dimensional beings. They just, like I say, stripped away all their power. They still have their powers, but they're, just get a different perspective. Doesn't mean they're always the best manifestors. A lot of times they live challenging lives. It's not always going to have all the answers. So as you go more into your awakening, sometimes you might see godlike beings in the higher realms. And a lot of them, yes, abuse their realities constantly. And your world is slowly snapping back into what it lost back during times of Atlantis, even before that. As you can see, you're slowly triggering memories so you can move up a level, but there's still a long ways to go. As many feel like you're there and the new reality is coming, and then you find yourself disappointed. There's a great deal of that. There's always going to be disappointment. That's just part of your world's DNA. But some do have high expectations. They feel like they can manifest this even for others, going to the fifth dimension. But there's a lot of souls lost in the fifth dimension too. Just because you're in the fifth dimension doesn't mean you have it all together. So I wouldn't call this a downgrade, but they come to this world trying to figure themselves out. This world isn't necessarily a downgrade. It's just very slow from what you're used to. It's just a world that has, yes, a lot of uniqueness where it has the guts enough to just basically simplify everything in a way where it's just, yes, makes things, your reality as dull as possible. And that's like its charm, its character. That's why you have the mountains here to help ground it, to slow it down. The oceans have a lot to do with it. A lot has to do with the mountains. The bigger the mountain, the more slow this world becomes. And you have a lot of mountains here. So it doesn't mean the mountains will go away when the higher dimensions come through. No, a lot of those mountain energies will light up, but your world has a long ways to go for that. Well, many are still complaining about themselves, trying to heal themselves or avoid themselves, not necessarily heal. It's like they're avoiding the truth. Some of you are looking for the truth. Some others are avoiding it. Sometimes when you say you're looking for the truth, sometimes it means the opposite. So there's a lot of trickster energies here. Yeah, it's just good to be like when you hear the word truth mentioned, it's all how it's mentioned, how it's used. Sometimes it's actually to get you to be even more lost than you are right now. Greens, the booties, the void. The void is not necessarily a negative. It is a place for create. It's like a pause. It's a clearing. It's for you to reflect better on yourselves. It's basically a place to get away from it all. But some of you find that you have voids on your planet also. It's called a desert. It's called some area. There's a lot of voids here actually. Well, when you just don't see a lot of people there, you have your own version of it. Let's put it that way. And it's not necessarily a negative thing. So you go into the void, it's like in space, it's like you don't have to worry about anybody messing with you because nobody's there. There's a lot of aliens that cause difficulties. They're kind of like purse snatchers. They go where the crowds are. You're out in the middle of nowhere. They get tired of waiting around for someone to rob or manipulate or whatever it might be. Now, some alien beings just sit out there anyway. Because they got nothing better to do with themselves. And then they're like the most patient beings you could ever imagine. They're not exactly growing either, but that's necessarily there. Like some beings, yes, alien beings go out in the void and just sit there for a very long time. Wait for somebody to show up. And a lot of times nobody shows up. Well, just to bully other beings or to learn from whatever it might be. Or to find some treasures out there. So it's like going out into the middle of the oceans. You're looking for treasure hunting. It's out there. So out in space. All the answers are not in the higher dimensions. That's why you're here. This world was created so you can't leave here easily. As many was like incarnate here is like, oh yeah, this is too much. I'm out of here. Which many do. In the pregnancy form, yeah, many do exit very quickly. But even when they do exit, like premature babies that are not born, they miscarriages basically. Some of them, they have energy issues with themselves. Once they abort now if they're aborted, that's different. But when they leave themselves, it's almost like sometimes even a unborn child can, like attack the mother sometimes. It's like it's doing that to cause you even more difficulties, more grief. Sometimes that happens, not always. So there's another way of looking at how your reality works. Well, as you become more aware of how reality works in the higher dimensions, it makes this much easier. Of course, not many are really raising their hand wanting to know. And even then, you're not really getting confirmation of what right is and right, what's wrong. Because the beings here don't want you to know, basically. So you figure out what's right for you. This is a trickster. Basically, trickster beings are what trickster beings that are here are surprised they can reign so powerfully here. They know it's not going to last forever, but obviously they're taking advantage of it as long as they can. And you're here to figure out whatever it might be. It tells you how difficult it is to find what you're here to figure out. Well, some of you leave knowledge here in your previous incarnations, and then you come back to retrieve it. What is it, though? Grease you. This is Redmond with Sirius B. Blessings. Our society mirrors yours. Yes, you might be more in the fourth dimension. We don't have the difficulties of your world, but some of us wish we did. We can learn more about ourselves. Because even in the higher dimensions, yes, you might not have the difficulties of your reality, but we can also see where we're lacking. In your world, you don't always see that. You're just trying to get through the day, get through your lives. You're not seeing all of your what you can improve on. In the higher dimensions, depending on where you are, you can see it really clearly. And it can be like a bad penny. I mean, you can see where your faults are, and you're just like, oh, am I going to do something about this? Now, some people see that here in this reality. A lot of times people just avoid it, but you are going through. It's like you go through your shadow when you incarnate here. Take all your fears and you live them all, which is a lot of bravery also, but it does help you break away from being fear. But sometimes just having an incarnation that's completely fearful, you go to one extreme to the other. It's like you're one lifetime you're extremely fearful, the other life you're fearless. It's like you wonder where those fearless people come from. Because a lot of times they live lifetime after lifetime being fearful. Eventually it's like, okay, I've done that to death. And now I'm not going to care what happens to me at all. It all depends on, there's more to it than that. A lot of times it's losing loved ones where they just stop caring. It's different ways of looking at that. But our society, Syrian realities, Palladian realities for Syrian energy, our realities do, depending on the world, mirrors your world. But like I say, not from the heavy challenges standpoint, but basically, like we can have a version of ourselves here on your world, and we can see what we need to fix on ours. So we can send ourselves on your world messages to better improve on certain things. So like you're a spirit guide to yourself. Of course, you also have family members around you also, which are technically your guides to give you some more guidance to figure yourself out. And a lot of times the guides have to step back and let you figure things out, or all the time. We'll just leave that. Basically, the best thing a guide can do is let you do your thing. A guide that's always interfering is a bad guide, really, because it's kind of trying to live your life instead of letting you live your life, letting you figure things out, how to improve yourself, how to not make the same mistakes. If the guides are constantly telling you not to make the same mistakes, you don't always remember, to do it on your own. So you leave this world and you're used to somebody telling you what to do. Now, there are people here that have guides telling you what to do all the time. But for someone that's the best they can do. They need someone to tell them what to do. You see that in your world. Eventually it goes more into the physical. First you have guides telling you what to do, and then you have physical beings telling you what to do, like teachers, bosses, whatever it might be. And then the guides step back So it's not always easy for humans to pull back from their guidance that they're getting from the higher, because they don't want to make any mistakes. That's why. But in this world, it's all about making mistakes, as you know. Not always, but it does help. The mistakes do build another part of yourself. Well, then you know. It's like you made a mistake. Okay, now I have that knowledge. Now do you, of course, as deep as the mistake is, then you make sure you never do that again. But you don't get that very often on other planets because you know things already, so you know not to do certain things. But when you come to a world like this, you have like a blinder on. You just can't see, so you're trusting your senses. You can't really see as much as you like to, and that's really where you are. So you're coming here blind, as you can see. You don't remember your other lifetimes, and but then eventually over time you come here blind, but then you start to see more clearly.